Slow down, lay your burden down.
Hey, welcome to episode number 22 of Divergent Paths with Dan Dunford. I am Dan Dunford, and happy day after Martin Luther King Day. Releasing this episode a day later than normal due to the holiday and due to the fact that I was on my way back from Chicago yesterday, and that changes things a little bit. I was in the Chicago area. My trombone got stolen, as I mentioned last week, and I had to go up to the Edwards Company in Wisconsin to get a new custom bass trombone, which I'm very excited about. It's nice to get out of the city a bit. Shout out to Mike at Edwards for helping me get a new horn. I had a really great time. Spent 4 hours up at Edwards hanging out, playing music, talking about stuff. So and in the future, hopefully that's going to develop into some more podcast guests. Don't want to say anything specific until I know for sure, but I think that'll be something that works out. So this week on the show is Ben Brody, who is a guitarist and horn player and composer. And if you recognize his voice, it's because he was on the podcast last week with the Lovelies. So about a month and a half ago, almost 2 months ago, more than actually, closer to 2.5 months ago now, man. Trevor, my producer, Trevor, had been asking me, or telling me rather, to get a hold of this guy, Ben Brody, who I knew who he was, I was familiar with him as a composer. He's written some stuff for the Chelsea Symphony over the years, but I had never met him. So I got in contact with him, and we got together and talked, informally, and we I kind of pitched him on the idea of having him on 3 different episodes. A lot of musicians, pretty much, most musicians even, they do their own solo stuff, and then they have other groups that they play in, and Ben is no exception. He does that, and he plays with some great groups, and I thought it'd be cool to illustrate this kind of standard thing that musicians do, and so I have him on 3 different episodes. Last week the Lovelies, this week he's doing a solo show, just the 2 of us talking, and then next week he will be featured as part of my interview with Pitch Black Brass Band, which I'm also very excited about. Me and Ben talk about a lot of stuff. He's a really interesting guy, really smart. I don't want to talk too much, say too much about what we talk about, but it's good. Talk about business of music and about his composing and a lot of different stuff. So one thing that we talk about a bit is a group called Flow State, which we talk about the origins of the group in the interview, but it's one of his main solo kind of things. And Flow State just released an EP last month, December 20th. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to that show, and it was really great. Really cool venue, the Center for Performance Research out in Brooklyn. And it was great. So today on the episode, I have 2 tracks from their new EP, which is entitled "Where the Sky Meets the Earth." And I did something a little different. So we talk, and then we stop for a second, and I put in one of the tracks from the EP right before we start talking about Flow State. So in the middle of the episode, it's going to cut off and then go into music, and that's supposed to happen. It's not it's not the end. So in the middle is the track, or is the song "What's Done Is Done," and almost dropped my microphone. That's great. And after the interview, we talk about flow state and wrap things up, and at the end of the show is a song called "These Things," or a piece. Well, we talk about about his conceptions with flow state, and yeah, it's really cool. So while this, flow state, as we talk about in the show, it did originate as a solo, completely solo thing for Ben. Is now several musicians. Ben playing electric guitar, Nick Lenchner playing the basses, electric and double. And also Jonathan Evers on keyboard, Allison Shearer alto sax, Noah Dreiblatt tenor sax. So enjoy those pieces or songs, whichever you prefer to call them. They're really good. I really enjoyed hearing Flow State, and hope you, and I'm sure you will too, enjoy the interview. And as always, listen in on iTunes or Stitcher, subscribe, share, talk about it, do the things you do. All right. So now, Ben Brody.
Slow down.
Right.
Here we go.
So thanks for doing this.
You're welcome.
This is, I'm not sure exactly what order I'm going to end up releasing these in, but this is the second one you've recorded with me.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah, the first time was with the Lovelies.
Yeah, we did one with the Lovelies. And we recorded that last, about a little over a week ago, and then hopefully we can pull off the hat trick in the near future with Pitch Black. But this one is just you.
Yeah.
And about your personal oeuvre, if you will. So, I mean, this like the different podcasts we're doing are we're doing two ensembles that you're in, but also your individual thing. But like, what else do you do beyond these things that we've been covering? I mean, personally for you, Flow State is a big thing that that's a big personal project for you.
Yeah.
And then you have these other ensembles that you play in. You're doing guitar, you're doing bass. You play French horn.
Well, not bass. I don't do bass.
You don't do bass.
No.
I was wrong about that thing. That's cool. You can cut that out. So you play like guitar and stuff, and French horn, and
I write. I compose. I write everything for Flow State.
Yeah,
I've written a couple pieces for Pitch Black, and currently trying to write more.
Yeah, and to take it to previous episodes, you've written for Chelsea Symphony.
Yeah, I've written for Chelsea Symphony.
And they're big fans of your music over there. So like what? What? That's just a lot. That's a lot.
Why do I do no?
Why do you do all of this stuff?
Why do I do that stuff?
Can't you just stick to one thing? And
no, that's a big problem I have right now that I'm trying to solve.
Is that something you
it's
started?
Just I was always like that. I just liked, like, if I had an idea or if I felt interested in something that I wanted to do, I would do it. I would just try to do it. So I would hear something, like, for instance, with the Chelsea Symphony.
Did you ever play with them?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's how I started composing for them. I started playing, I think, the second half of their first year. I think. I mean, that's 10 years, right?
10 years ago, yeah.
That's ridiculous. But so maybe it was their second season. I'm not sure, because I don't feel like it was that long time that long ago.
Only 9 years ago.
You're right. But no, yeah. So I went to a couple of their concerts, and I started playing horn with them. And then one of their, I think, co-founders, Miguel Campos.
Mm-hmm.
He was a conductor at the time. Composer dropped out, and he heard that I wrote music, and I kind of didn't, but I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll do that, you know. And I felt like I had nothing to lose because I never wrote for the orchestra. If it went bad, it went bad, whatever. And if it went well, then great, you know. And it went well, so it was
another potential stream of income.
Yeah, right. So it went well, and then I wrote another piece, and the next year, and it kind of like took off from there. I always wanted to compose. The act of creating is something that obviously interests all of us. But that specific medium, composing, is something that's always interested me. And that was like sort of like a by luck, by chance kind of like opportunity for me.
Yeah.
And from there, I actually took a couple years off after I graduated from Manhattan School of Music. And I composed within those 2.5 years that I was out of school a bunch, and then went to school for composition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So. But in terms of like doing a bunch of things, I feel like, you know, as musicians or artists, really, anybody, you kind of need to be, you know, especially in your younger years, or even, I mean, not even in your younger years, just in your like big career as you're emerging or beginning, you kind of need to have your hands in a lot of projects.
Yeah, it's something that kind of becomes, it's helpful, like in your case, if you're saying, you know, you were kind of saying that like it's something you always, you know, that you wanted to do this, you wanted to do this, and so you just started doing it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you grabbed up the opportunity when it arose.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of, but it's even for people who are not necessarily like that, it's something, especially as a younger musician, trying to make a name for it, it's like born out of necessity.
Yeah, right.
You end up, I have to play with 12 different ensembles in a 3-week period because...
Yeah, if you're a freelancer, I mean, you're playing with a ton of different ensembles and a bunch of different people. I mean, you could be doing studio sessions during the day, playing concerts at night, you know, practicing in between that. You know, so it's like, I think on the outside you could see it doing doing 20 different things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like composing, playing, running an ensemble. You could see it as, and they are completely different things, but they are almost the same. You know, in terms of like discipline and just the way you work things out. You know, they're all pretty much the same experience. I would say. I mean, if you could fill your day up with 6 gigs, then you can, you know, write a little bit, play a gig at night. You know, it's sort of like, it's just a different gig. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's weird. I was listening to,
or your week or days.
I was listening. It's funny because like I was listening to a comedian, one of the podcasts I used to do, talking about like working during the day as opposed to like doing like, instead of doing like 6 spots, you know, 6 15-minute spots around the city at night. Like you spend your day writing, and it's just as hard of work.
Yeah.
Work.
Well,
like,
I mean, during the day, I mean, I do a lot of music editing. I'll do, film work as that comes in. You know, that's doesn't come in that often, but it's something that I do get called for. And the music editing stuff really supports a lot of the artistic endeavors that I pursue. Yeah, so it's kind of, and that's time consuming. That could easily be, you know, or that is a full-time job for a lot of people, and it's starting to turn into that for me at this point. But you know, or at least a day, something that I'm doing during the day, and it is flexible with the artistic side, the musical side. With, you know, okay, I can't do this now because I'm composing, or I have a gig, or I'm away for the week, or I'm away for the weekend, whatever. So it is consistent with that, and also flexible around that kind of schedule. So, which is nice.
Yeah, I think it's funny and a little bit frustrating when it's like a lot of these passion, like these really the main art. Sometimes like your main artistic outlet is the one that like has the least return on investment.
Oh, right, yeah.
Initially.
Yeah.
Last week there was a trumpet player I was trying to sit down with, and I had to reschedule, I felt really bad. I had to reschedule 2 or 3 different times because I had different things pop up that I needed. I'm emailing, I feel like an ass, but
yeah, right.
But what I'm going to be doing with you, which it's the thing that I'm really passionate about, but it also doesn't pay my bills.
Right.
So I'd appreciate if you don't get mad at me.
No, and
it was cool. Maybe it ended up being
that's
cool.
something that's I think a lot of people understand at this point.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. But yeah, as long as you keep on it, and they know that you're trying to you're working hard at getting that project done. I think it's okay, yeah.
And it helps if you have examples of
your
what
thing. You do, yeah.
And it worked out. This guy listened to what I was doing. He's like, okay, great. I want to do this. I'm willing to work with you.
Yeah, the bad thing sometimes is I don't know if I want to say this, but I will. But it's kind of you are doing a lot of things. You're communicating with a lot of people, scheduling a lot of things, and then there's always that one time where it's kind of that one email gets lost, or you just completely forget about it, and then you're like, oh no, I forgot to, and then you get back to the person weeks after.
I had to cancel on someone 2 hours before we were supposed to tape because I was in bad shape and it would have been a bad.
Yeah, right.
But what I really didn't realize was someone a member of the ensemble had come into town specifically from Boston, and I ended up getting an angry email, and I was like,
yeah.
I'll reimburse you your travel expenses.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, I just couldn't do it.
Oh yeah.
It's just one of those things you have to work with. Anyway,
yeah.
So what's your musical superhero origin story?
What do you mean by superhero? You mean where do I
Yeah, where'd you come from?
Did
you fall into a vat of
I grew up
gamma radiation?
I grew up in Clifton, New Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah, which is about half hour west of New York City.
Yeah.
25 minutes, 20 minutes, depending how fast you drive.
Depending on if you're going out there in the morning or trying to get out there in the evening.
I didn't really come from... My family history, I think, is musical. My great-grandmother or something played cello in an orchestra in California or something. But my brother is always playing music. He's a music teacher now, education. And he is a phenomenal drummer. And he actually also played horn. Mm-hmm. So I think I was always hearing what he was doing and following him. I didn't play drums, but he was always pursuing something musical. So I was always listening to what he was listening to, and I was always trying to do things he was trying to do as a younger brother does. Mm-hmm. And my parents always encouraged us, to do that kind of stuff. So when I got to high school, I started with trumpet. Mm. And when I got to high school, I started playing horn. Because I hated the trumpet. I couldn't stand it. It was just this sound. Maybe I was just bad at it. I don't know. But the thing is, I just couldn't. For some reason, I just couldn't. It was just always loud. And I don't care.
High school band always wants some more people to play horn anyway.
And then nobody was playing French horn. And this is the story of the origin story of every French horn player.
Yeah.
Nobody was playing horn in high school, so I picked it up and started playing. So that's what it was. I started playing mellophone first in the marching band. So then I started playing horn, and I did all state, I did regions, I did all that stuff.
Wait, you started playing mellophone, and you're like, I got to get some more of this.
Well, at the same time, they gave me... Actually, the sound, I was like, man, this sounds so much better than trumpet, but it's just as... It's
horrible.
The same thing. No, it's the same thing as trumpet, but it just has a mellow sound. No, but I think they gave me the horn at the same time as I was playing for it. So I was like, this is really cool. I really like it. And, I was progressing at it, So I did all state regions, all that kind of stuff, band.
All those things that pump up high schoolers with importance, and then you graduate and realize that they don't...
Yeah, then I got into Manhattan School of Music, and then everyone's as good as you, and then you suck.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. No. Then I went to Manhattan School of Music, and then, I was freelancing a lot, and...
You went to MSM for composition, though.
No, I went to MSM for French horn.
For horn, okay.
I studied with Ralski.
Oh, okay.
Ralski, yeah. And then that's when I took 2 years off. After that,
right.
And then I, I wasn't really feeling. I was just like, at the time, it was just, I didn't want to go back into school. I just didn't. I was like, I don't want to be in school anymore. I thought that I knew a bunch of, not a bunch of people. I thought I knew enough people, and I could get a job where like I could take a couple years off, freelance, work a day job, and kind of just make my own way around, And I was back and forth. I was living in the city for a while, and I was living in Jersey for a while, like in between those 2.5 years. And then, like, when I decided to go back to school, I ended up getting a job at a publishing company in New Jersey. So I was working at Lincoln Center, and I was doing other odd job kind of things around.
But it didn't pan out like you were hoping.
What do you mean?
You said you were hoping you could like do the day job and freelance a lot.
Well, I was. That's what I was doing.
Oh, it did work out. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was doing. I was working at Lincoln Center. I was doing some other. Oh yeah, I was like catering, but I was also playing horn a lot for, somebody that, I think. At that time, straight out of school, I was performing several times a week when playing really great repertoire, diverse ensembles. It wasn't just a chamber group, or it was like chamber, it was orchestra, and operas, and some new music stuff. So it was a good studio, some movie stuff.
Yeah.
So it's good.
It's hitting all those orchestras that everyone goes through at some point.
Yeah. Right. So
yeah.
So no, but it was cool. It was a good time, And I was playing guitar my whole life, so yeah.
So, but you did eventually end up going back to school?
Yeah, I ended up going back to school in 2012 to Montclair State University, studying with Bob Aldridge, who's now at Rutgers. And I graduated in 2012. I went to school.
Seems a lot more recent.
2010, I went back to school. And and Montclair was great. And that's when I was in Jersey. I moved back to Jersey because Montclair was like 2 miles away from where I live.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And why did you go back?
Because I felt like I needed some. I don't know. Just I needed some guidance with composition. I could sit there and figure things out, I guess, myself, but at the same time, it's like you can get in your own head. You need that extra. And at the time, I didn't know anybody in the composition world. So and Bob Aldridge was amazing. With that, and Montclair was amazing too. They had great performance opportunities, and Bob was also teaching at Brevard Music Center, and I went there for a summer for like 6 weeks or whatever, and I met David Zubay there and other composers around the country and stuff, and it was a great experience, and that was cool because we had 6 weeks, and I think I wrote like 5 pieces, that were, they weren't that bad, and it forced you to kind of like, have like your first thought be your best thought.
Yeah.
It was kind of like this stream of
sometimes
creativity.
You don't have the time to try it.
And when you do
trial and error shit.
Yeah, and when you do have the time, you end up writing worse shit anyway. 'Cause it's like you start revising.
Forces you to be your best.
And then you go back to what you did in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's like you might as well you need to like, you can't get into your head, so much with composition.
Well, when did you start writing then? I mean, you did your undergrad in horn. Like, had you started writing then, or?
Yeah, I did. I dabbled in writing at that point, like in my undergrad. I was always writing guitar stuff or thinking of things that I wish I could write this, or I had the time to write this or that. There was a point where like I wasn't playing the horn at school. Just because I had like chop issue or whatever. I just wasn't playing, and then I basically I would sit and just look at scores and work on music theory and stuff like that. Just because what else am I going to do? And listening to horn music and stuff, and I was always interested on how pieces were developed beyond my instrument. This horn player is great, but this composer, how did he actually, do this or something, or create this? How is this? Basically, it stands out, or it comes from thinking, how is this possible? How does somebody do this?
It's brass playing. While there are tiny variations in to get to a pinnacle or a super high level on par with whoever or whatever orchestra player. There are variations in teaching methods and there's variations in this, but you get there the same way. Yeah, you work and there are a lot of different. There are a number of things that go into it, but it's usually the same things for everyone. With composition, there's so many there's so many. There's literally millions of ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of different avenues. And, and the thing, I think when I really started thinking about composition was when I was in theory class, I heard there's this horn duet by Gunther Schuller that Phil Myers actually has on one of his albums. And there's this minor sixth passage. It's and the horns are doing it simultaneously, and it just, to me, it really struck a chord. It was no pun intended. it really struck. I don't know. I just loved it so much, and I was just dabbling with these sixths, minor thirds, and stuff. And in the beginning of a theory class, I was playing these minor thirds just because I heard this Gunther Schuller piece or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, who's that, Philip Glass?" And I was like, "No, it's just something I would listen to." And then I was like, Philip Glass, I was like, I recognize the name. And this is early on, this is 2000, I don't know. It was when I first got, first semester, first year at Manhattan School of Music. And I basically, when the theory teacher told me that, I was like, Philip Glass, I know he wrote some music for film and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't really know his music so much. So
he wrote that song with the wood block on it?
No, but then I basically I checked.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry.
I checked. We'll cut that. So I checked. Anyway, so I checked out Philip Glass, and at that point, I just became completely obsessed with his music.
Right.
And that's when I really started thinking about, because I related. At that point, it was very tonal. He's a minimalist composer, and at that time, I'm coming from a background of listening to pop music, to rock music, to heavy metal, to to horn music, which is completely tonal. I mean, for at least the stuff that I was listening to,
right.
The standard stuff. So it was just, and then this whole minor third thing that I was obsessed with from Gunther Schuller. Mm-hmm. I heard. I mean, it's in every piece of Philip Glass. So I was I was just this is ridiculous, And I just kind of related to his music on a very, I don't know, on just a different level than any other composer. And then that led me to Steve Reich, John Adams.
Yeah.
This whole minimalist thing, that's been around for,
a few decades.
Yeah, for a few decades at this point. It's so something that I really dove into from there, and I related to, and that's when I was like, this, I can. After hearing that, I was like, I feel like I could write. After hearing Schoenberg, you don't feel like you could write music.
No.
It's kind of this, or anything as, Stockhausen. It's something that's crazy,
You listen to that 1920 to 1960. You listen to 20th century music, that 1920 to 1965 chunk. It's all super complex, and there's so much going into it. Yeah. And then you have these guys coming out of that writing.
Or
music.
It's not that, I can't write music like this. It's just I don't want to write. I don't want to. And that was their sort of mentality. They don't. The whole 1960s coming out of, and the minimalist era was we don't need to be writing this music. 12 tones. You're kind of that type of. So anyway, I was. So that's when I started composing, and then that led into other things. Yeah.
Various other things.
Yeah. So, but now, now it's,
Now it's a huge part of what you do.
yeah, now it's a huge part of what I do. I work with, also another thing, basically, this is where the doing a lot of different things really helped me out.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, basically, what I do now, I would say is because of the French horn. And
What do you mean?
And this is why. So, I was playing horn, making connections, and also going to school for composition. Like it's not. There was never like, why am I doing this? It was more like, this is what I should be doing now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this is what I should keep on doing, and I shouldn't let this go, kind of thing. At the time when I was at Montclair composing, I was still playing horn, but I was kind of transitioning into this, what I really wanted to do, what I kind of really always wanted to do. And in hindsight, I look back and it was like, when I first got to Manhattan School of Music, it wasn't at all what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
I thought it was going to be this like artistic school. I mean, it is artistic. I'm saying it was going to be this like fuel of creation just constantly. I didn't think I'd be working on excerpts. Like when I entered Manhattan School, I was like, what's an excerpt?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was like this. I was very naive. I didn't realize it was this very like rigid kind of structure of instrumental playing. Anyway, so it all comes back to horn. So when I was at Montclair, one of my friends who knew I was like really love Philip Glass, called me up and said, "Do you want to do this studio gig for one of Glass's assistants?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'll go and I'll do it." And he was working on like a independent film at that point. And now that guy. Basically, I went to the studio, I played the horn part, and I said, "Listen, I want to talk to you about composing. I want to show you my EP, stuff like that, whatever. And whatever about this horn stuff. That's great. I want to, because I love. He was working for somebody that like I was like,
yeah, that was the guy.
yeah,
that's the guy.
That was the dude. So I basically, we started talking. We became friends, and he's a great composer. He does a lot of film work, and he's Glass's music assistant. And he got me the gig with working with Elliot Goldenthal.
Mm-hmm.
He called me up one day. He's like, "Yeah, this composer Elliot Goldenthal." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know his name." Elliot is so low key. It's extremely funny, but I was like, "Yeah, I think." He was like, "Oh yeah, he did like Alien 3, Demolition Man." I'm like, "Oh okay, yeah,
yeah, that guy,
yeah, this guy." So an Interview with the Vampire kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So I got I didn't know too much about him, and I'm looking him up, and I'm like, "Geez, man," And so Alex is Glass's Alex Weston, composer extraordinaire. But he got me the what they dubbed as an internship.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting paid a little bit, which is nice, but I was editing music for Elliot Goldenthal.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to Elliot's house, and I'm thinking, or apartment, and I'm like, I'm sitting there, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, what am I doing here? Why am I sitting at this couch talking to this dude who somebody would like stab me to sit next to this?
Yeah.
Like some movie buff. Like
these kids who are majoring in film scoring at NYU.
Yeah, so it's like it was this very strange thing, for me talking to him, and Elliot was amazing, during that time, and I still work with him. We're still doing a lot of things. Here and there. He's very busy, obviously. But it was sort of like I started the only reason I was sitting there is because I played this studio session on horn.
Yeah.
If I never played, say if I just started composition, I might have still be in that position. Maybe I'd be somewhere else, but I'm saying how these things sort of these different paths that you take kind of lead you in different areas of the music world, which is fascinating, and it's exciting, and then that led me to do, I went to and other, I think a lot of it is just talking to people that you look up to or that you think you can relate to, just like how like when I said, "Hey Alex, do you want to talk?" or what,
Yeah.
I was like, you can hear some of my music. I have this guitar EP coming out. And I literally brought my guitar in him to his studio and played it for him. And he was like expecting me to bring a CD. He always tells me a story, but I thought he I don't know, and he thought that was just so funny, and it stuck out to him, and I didn't really mean anything, but I just thought we play a little bit of music at shows and stuff, and then we went to go to a beer. So, but it's that kind of thing, or just people that you think aren't reachable, or that you don't think that you can call and ask for advice. You can totally do that.
They're a lot more accessible than you might think.
They're their numbers are on their website. It's there for a reason.
It's funny. That's something I've really kind of fallen into discovering. You know what I mean? An example would be Caroline Shaw, Pulitzer Prize winner.
Yeah. Amazing composer.
Saying what? Amazing composer.
Yeah.
Just her singing group sang with Kanye out of the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And they released something. Kanye released something on a SoundCloud with her vocalizations.
Yeah, right.
I can totally get a hold of her. Like that.
Yeah.
I've met her a couple times, and I have connections to her, and she's nice, right?
Yeah.
So it's like when you live here, even if someone is several tiers above you, or you think you perceive them as that, they were where you are now.
Right, exactly.
And generally there are exceptions where people are assholes.
Yeah.
And in any situation, but my experience has been people just want people are always interested in just talking about talking about their art.
Yeah, people are busy. People are
busy.
They may not get back to you at all, but it's worth a shot. The worst thing that can happen is be no, sorry,
I'm too busy.
Yeah. So and then that led that whole in quote unquote internship with Elliot led to basically me getting other gigs doing music editing, and other gigs with film, and other gigs with different awards and stuff. It's just put me into these positions where I could excel in a positive way. Yeah. So, but and another reason why I like to compose is definitely the different avenues and the different genres of music.
Well, so you're writing. You write orchestra music, and you write hip hop charts, and you write for your own group, Flow State, and you write for film. And so there's
the film is a very stream of consciousness thing. You kind of want to have you improvise over the what's going on, and then you have the edits and stuff, and then that's the hard
bag
part.
Of tricks that always work.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why people contact you for certain things. They hear something in your music that they like. They most likely they want you to do that again. I would say the hardest part about film is, especially doing it yourself, the DIY, film production on the music side is the production. It is very hard, you have to be an all-around person, and that's something I'm always talking to Alex about, is because he's amazing at mixing in the music and getting different sounds and stuff like that. His knowledge about synths and just it's endless. So that's the most difficult thing, and that's what I'm really trying to get my head wrapped around is that part of the film aspect. And it's like that for every thing that you do as a composer. You're always learning. I mean, you put yourself in these situations that are kind of uncomfortable at the moment, so you're like always trying to learn how to do something new,
grow yourself.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then hit again. Like, I mean, I'm playing in Pitch Black Brass Band, which is a hip hop brass band, out of Brooklyn, New York. It's something. It's music that I didn't grow up with. So that's something completely new for me. Or was completely new for me. Learning about the culture, the music, the artists. What it means in society and things like that. And the origins of hip hop. And
out of my neighborhood.
Yeah, and and it's still new to me, and I'm still learning. There's just so many. There's so much, and I'm around people that, that I can learn from every day, something new, and they challenge me every day, with my appearance, with the way I put myself on Facebook, or the way I play the guitar, play the horn, the music I write. The charts that they bring in are getting better and better. Now I need to bring in charts that are getting better and better. That may not be the aspect. Like, I'm still learning to write hip hop. It's something like I could write a indie rock tune for days. But that's because that's what I know, and that's what I really grew up listening. That kind of music. So the hip hop aspect is something that I think I'm getting better at, but it's something that is I'm still growing. It's just fun. Yeah. So anyway.
There was one other thing I wanted to ask you, and now I'm blanking on what it was. Love it when that happens. Yeah. Oh no! So at this point, like, do you just hardly play horn at all, or do you play it?
No, I play horn. I don't do orchestra stuff.
You don't have to schlep yourself around for these terrible gigs anymore.
Well, they weren't terrible gigs. It was just I didn't see like any I don't know. It was just the
it's just not where you
people
were.
I started the more I was doing it, the people I was playing with were always, it was the same group of people in a bunch of different ensembles that I was playing with, or orchestras and stuff, and I could see it getting a little more tense, a little more bitter, and I was young, and these people were older, and I was like, fuck this, that kind of thing. It's not always, that's not the way everyone's career is, and I'm not speaking for everyone. And I'm not speaking for everyone, but I'm speaking for my experience.
It can get dark.
Yeah. So, and I didn't see, and I just couldn't see myself playing in an orchestra, in the middle of nowhere, or I couldn't see myself getting. I mean, maybe that's a low goal or expectations for myself, but I couldn't see myself getting into a major orchestra. I thought it was like winning a lottery. It's very, very, very difficult. And my odds were not with me. So,
and you could spend your entire life working towards that and never get it.
Yeah. So it was a risk that I kind of didn't want to deal with. And I started progressing in other ways that brought me in different areas of music.
So now.
Yeah.
Now you have
I have a bunch of stuff, but no, I think I am trying to minimize my work and what I'm trying to do and stuff. But the one thing that we didn't, I don't know if we have time to talk about this.
Yeah, sure.
Do we have other stuff to talk about? The whole business side of the music industry. Yeah. I feel like that's 50% of your income or your your career as a musician. I'm very passionate about that stuff, just because it's so important, and a lot of people just don't know about it, or not know about. They know it exists.
And they
don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where to start. The only thing, the only reason why I know about it is because one day, it was like after my second Chelsea Symphony concert, I'm talking to a composer that wrote for the Chelsea Symphony. He goes, "Oh, I made this much money from ASCAP, blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Excuse me?" From royalties, for performance royalties. And I'm like, "Say that again?" And he's like, "Yeah, the professional rights organization." And at this point, I was just starting composing. I didn't know anything about that kind of stuff. And when I figured out about all this stuff, I couldn't stop reading about it, and I was just like, "This is insane!" You can do something, and then get paid for it
without doing any extra work,
and then it's still there in print, and then have the possibility to play it again, and then get paid again for it, and then repeat that over and over. It's like, I can't do that with a horn.
Yeah.
I can't play a great solo and then go to the next time I play this piece and be like, press play, and play it again, or play it as good. You can be consistent as a performer, and performers are, but there's always that yeah. But anyway, it's a different way of thinking. I don't know. It's so anyway, at that point, I became, I started learning about publishing and all the different avenues of making money, licensing, how copyright, how to basically sell your copyright and what it means, and owning your own publishing as a emerging composer is very important, I think, because if a publishing company is going to take own your music or take a percentage of your music because they're exploiting your music in a good way, if you're getting a ton of performances and making money on doing other things, that's great. But if you're having 5 performances a year, of your music,
yeah,
own your publishing.
Yeah.
Because if somebody approaches you saying, "Hey, I want your publishing because you have 5 performances a year," they want your money.
Yeah.
I don't think they want to develop. They want to develop you, I guess, but you're not at that stage yet. They want us. I think it's important that if you can do all the work yourself, then you should own that portion of your publishing. But anyway, so there's.
Well, now you advise other.
Yeah, I advise some people in Pitch Black. I advise all people in Pitch Black about the ASCAP kind of stuff. But I tell them, I'm like, listen, I could do this certain thing for you, but let me say this: in the pop world, the royalties are like pennies. There's different things that you can do to get money that you wouldn't get otherwise. If you have, like Pitch Black, we can have 25 to 30 performances within 3 months.
Right.
Which is a good amount of performances. And it gets the people in Pitch Black a little, it gets them a little bit of money. It's not like anything that can pay your rent, but it's money that they wouldn't have otherwise. But I tell, I say to them, I'm like, listen, I could administrate this for you, take a small percentage of the publishing. You can have a portion of it. You can give it all to me if you don't want to do it at all. If they don't want to do anything, and it's like, I'm not getting a large portion. And as the percentages get bigger kind of thing, I tell them, I'm like, listen, I could lower my percentage and get your percentage higher. So it's like I'm still making the same amount of money kind of thing.
Right.
So it's I'll notify ASCAP, notify the performances, register the music. I'll take care of licensing if somebody wants to use one of our songs for independent film,
right,
or any other any other kind of contract that somebody sends our way. But also I'll help the other people who do want their publishing, who do want to do it themselves. So I'll get. There's also awards at the end of the year for the amount of work that you've done throughout the year, which is a larger sum of money,
right,
which is good. So I've done those things for Pitch Black. So yeah, I administer. I would say for Pitch Black, and
there's so much,
and
stuff.
we're starting to print music and develop our music.
And there's so much stuff, like all the stuff. Yeah, like 95% of the people have 95% of these musicians who are doing this stuff have no idea. They're just trying to do something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's like, people wonder, how do you make this? How do you make money? How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you survive as a musician? It's like, well, you have to be a business person. You have to be a business person to, you have to see your own music or your own creative work as a product. Like copyright. The best analogy, I think, is like copyright is equivalent to subletting your apartment for a certain amount of time.
Right.
Copyright your own music. It's like you're letting this person own your property for a certain amount of time. And live with it. Or have your music for a certain amount of time for a certain amount of money. And beyond that, it's like, I want it back. It's mine, thank you. And then
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, you sell to somebody else.
Yeah.
You do. That's that's the easiest way you can explain it. But it's something. But when I read those words, on the early stages of researching that, it made a huge impact because all I knew was like copyright. You own it if it's copyrighted, right? Oh, copyright. It's like that's the only thing that's in your head. But then when you see it as actual property that you own and can sell and resell, it's a totally different way of looking at it. Yeah. So that was a big impact on me. And then the whole knowing about all the royalties, and different ways you can make money nowadays. Especially, streaming is a whole different story. But it's like
those Spotify plays get you paid.
Yeah, right. No, but I'm saying it's as an orchestral musician, but there's ways to. You definitely need to work at getting that money. Mm-hmm. There's a time period where it does take time to turn around. Yeah. Or take this effect where it's rolling, a little bit. Yeah. Where you do get paid for certain things. But it's worth doing it even if you're not getting anything at that moment, because when something does come up,
you're set.
You're set, and you won't be screwed, and you'll know what you're talking about. Yeah. And you'll understand some of the language. You're not going to know everything. I don't know everything about it. Some of the language and some of the stuff, I'm just like, what is this? It's like, but at that point, it's like you know how to figure it out. You know what it might mean, and you know what it can pertain to. And how be like, okay, so this is this, and you connect it. You can connect the dots easier. Yeah. You're not just like looking at hieroglyphics. It's it's something that's extremely important, and that I stress to everyone. Not really. And I'll explain. People will be like, oh yeah, let's talk about that kind of stuff. And I'll explain the stuff to them, and they just stare at me. Yeah. In like astonishment. Not because of the things I'm spewing out of my mouth, but just because they're just like,
why didn't I know?
Why? Wait. It's like,
why didn't my professors in school tell me this?
They don't. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. But I think they're doing it more. There's a great program at Manhattan School of Music. I forget the technical name. It's the entrepreneurship program.
Yeah, these entrepreneurship programs are popping up here and there, but even then, it's still like you kind of like you're starting from a place where you assume everyone basically knows nothing. Yeah, and there's only so far you can get in a semester, or two. Yeah,
yeah. So, they do teach. Yeah. But, they do, I think they do talk about these things, but it's not very emphasized. At least when I was there, it wasn't emphasized, maybe because I was a horn player at the time, I don't know. But Montclair did an alright job, we had like a composer's forum and kind of stuff where we talked about that a little bit. But yeah, nowadays it's just, there's so much stuff to do. You know, I think it's actually ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like I can't even. I don't know. It's like these past 2 weeks working with like an EP release and having a 5-year anniversary while mastering, or we were also recording, going on tours. You can unplug the top one. You know, it's like you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You don't remember any of it, and you like. Yeah, you're just, I don't know. It's like, you're lucky if, like, your thing pops up on Facebook. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to beg people to like your stuff because, you know, you're trying to get a fan base and all that kind of, not beg people, but, like, I mean, I'm talking about, like, people in your own fucking group.
Yeah,
you know,
people that you shouldn't have to beg.
Yeah, which makes me sick. But anyway, it's like, you know, I don't even care. You can put that all over the place. So,
yeah,
it's ridiculous. You know, it's like, why are you in this? Why are you like part? It's not just.
Well, it's
not just like I'm associated with a small group of people in these groups, and like obviously I'm talking about some people that I'm like in groups with. They may hear this, they may not. I don't know. I don't care. You know, the thing is, it's like some kind of like political reasons, or they think, you know, their ego, their pride. I don't even know. I don't care. You know, I think it's just dumb. Like if we were back before Facebook, how would you promote yourself? You'd be sending out, you know, letters to people, collecting addresses. You'd be doing the same goddamn thing. The same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just in a different medium.
It's easier now to do it, but it's also easier to ignore it.
Yeah, it is easier to ignore it, but at the same time, it's like you're in a group that you made music, you compose music, you're playing, you have solos, you have tons of stuff on this record. Are you not proud of it? Are you not happy that you're on this? You're in the music world.
Yeah.
You're a musician. You're supposed to be promoting yourself. You're supposed to be doing that. That's what it's about. And when people don't do that, it's depressing.
Yeah.
And then like it ruins the whole vibe. You know, if you have a collective of people doing one thing and they're all on board, you know, you feel free as a bird. Mm-hmm. But when you have this one bad apple, or like this, like not one, or just like a couple of people who are just like oblivious to the way things work, it's really fucking hard.
Yeah,
it really is. And I'm not just talking about one person, and I'm not just talking about the groups I play with. I'm talking about people who are doing great things and don't promote themselves too.
Yeah,
you know, it's like yeah, you know, like I don't really like Facebook. It's like, well, what the fuck?
Does anyone really?
Nobody likes Facebook. Fakebook. Nobody likes Facebook.
We'll go a little more specifically into talk, and we can talk about flow state. Since I mean, you're releasing new music with them.
Yeah, releasing a new EP December 20th, and the show is at CPR. Or the show was at CPR by the time this comes out. It was at CPR, but it was December 20th. And no, but it's
pull the wool over the listener's eyes.
Yeah. But
or ears, I guess.
It's an EP that of music that I basically wrote for the group over the course of like a year.
Well, and this started as the group started, so it's just you.
Yeah, it was just a solo project. I put out a solo EP called Flow State, electric guitar. It got some buzz. It was on like New Sounds and had some write-ups. I didn't really have like a release party for it, but that turned into this sort of like people being like, oh, that's really cool, blah blah. And then the bassist who's in Flow State now, Nick Lynchner, he was always interested in that type of music, and he was at my recital. He played in my recital at Montclair. That's like when it was like 2012, like when I released it, or 13 when I officially released it. But I played some of the music at my graduate recital. And he heard it, and he was, and we would jam a little bit, and then finally we were like, we should put an ensemble together, and I would try to find a name, and I'm like, what, I might as well just call it Flow State, since it's stemming from the solo project, and now Flow State basically represents a collective of musicians that I write for.
So, what if you had to describe your own ensemble? What is it? What genre does it kind of?
I guess the easiest way.
Into?
I guess the easiest way is like, is a experimental. Okay, it's like minimalist, experimental rock. It's like there's no vocals, but sometimes we did work with a vocalist at one point, and we do have some of the tracks recorded. But it's instrumental music. It's funny because like a lot of people, they listen to it's rock and roll. Well, it's not. It's not rock. It's. You have electric guitar, electric keyboard, and sometimes electric bass. 2 saxes. We double on other woodwinds. I play French horn sometimes in the group. And you have Nick playing electric bass and double bass. I wouldn't say it's rock. It sounds like rock because there's an electric guitar, but it's It's like I think it's new music because it's derived from the way I write the music is not rock and roll.
It derives more from the minimalist.
The minimalist, just the whole just learning how to write as a composer. The charts are written out. It's through composed. If you wouldn't, people don't call Steve Reich. I think it's 2x5 is the album.
Yeah,
he writes for rock band, but nobody's calling it rock music.
Yeah,
he writes for drum set, guitar, key, whatever the ensemble is. It's like the way it's approached is not rock. Rock is like, hey, you sit in a room. It's like, yeah, you may know chords, whatever, but like you can have a lead sheet or whatever. This isn't lead sheet music. It's thought out in a different way too. There's improvisation, which could be in the jazz realm kind of thing. It comes from a different, when I hear like the first track, These Things, like it's loud and it's like almost orchestral and has a minimalist vibe to it. I would never listen to it and be like, oh, that's rock. No, I don't know. That's just me. But just because it has electric guitar and bass, it's rock. But I don't think so. I think it's trying to get past that.
Yeah.
It's like, why does electric guitar is associated with, jazz or like fusion, rock and roll, basically. Mm-hmm. But I don't see it as that. But I would say it's like, if anything, it's post rock. Whatever the hell that means.
It's good. we got to slap labels on these things. So, you know,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
The easiest way, I would just say it's minimalist.
Minimalist.
Maybe. I don't know.
I shouldn't have asked you to label it.
It's music.
It's music. There we go.
Saved by the Bell. Dan is wearing a Saved by the Bell t-shirt.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense if you don't see what I'm wearing. But, because this is a very visual medium.
No, I don't see it as a lot of, it's indie rock. I don't see it as that.
But it
can be.
Everything's nowadays everything's so genre crossing.
Yeah, I'll tell you this.
So
I'm writing what I want to hear. I'm writing. It's not like I'm writing like, oh, what would these group of people want to hear? No, it's like this is what I want to hear, and this is what I want whoever's listening to it to hear. And I'm inviting you into my world. And this is what I have to say about that. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Everyone has a lot of influences. I have a lot of influences. The music doesn't just stem from one thing. There's a lot of imagery that I deal with in my music that isn't really explained in any way, to the audience at all.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, this EP, Where the Sky Meets the Earth, which I got the name from Trevor New over here, Where the Sky Meets the Earth, from a poem he wrote. But it's basically compositions that I...
Wait, hold up. Trevor wrote a poem?
Well, it's lyrics, right?
Yeah.
Lyrics
okay.
To a song.
Lyrics.
Gotcha. That makes more sense.
Yeah. So it's basically... Yeah, it's tunes or music that I've written the past year for the ensemble, and we recorded the album back in January. So and in between that we were
why you been waiting?
Well, there was other things that were being done, and they needed to be mixed and mastered and all that kind of stuff. So now we're releasing in Christmas. But anyway, and then and Pitch Black, we were on tour for a while, and doing things and releasing things, and we were doing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and we're recording. Pitch Black is recording now. Tunes. We're trying to record a new album. We have our 5-year anniversary coming up, or was again our 5-year anniversary.
Well, when we're recording this, it'll be this coming Saturday. But when I'm releasing this, it will probably be 3 weeks previous.
Yeah. And so that's what's happening. Yeah.
Planning stages.
Yeah, we're planning. We're booking. So it's again, everybody's doing a lot of different things. It's people don't have there's a point at which you're doing everything yourself. You're booking, you're managing, you're doing all this stuff, and a lot of people are doing that. And when you're working with a lot of people at that stage of the game, it's very difficult to schedule things.
Yeah.
So it's that's the thing. For this EP release, we can only schedule 2 rehearsals, which always works good for us. But it's kind of it's an important concert, so I want it to be good. It will be good.
Or it has been good.
It has been.
It was great.
It was great. So,
and the New York Times has written him up in the arts and culture section at this point. So, Full Estate, the name of the album is
Where the Sky Meets the Earth.
Excuse me, the name of the EP. Where
album. No, it's called the album. I don't care.
Album.
LP, EP. It's an album, right?
Are you going to release it on vinyl?
Eventually, I would love to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
except that costs money.
You don't need. Nah.
Just make one in my apartment.
Yeah.
But
use that royalty money and buy the equipment.
Yeah, I could. Maybe.
It's not expensive.
Yeah.
So
the factory.
So that's coming. Will be out when this comes out, and it'll be available on the internets, and so people should buy it. Definitely should buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it'd be great. Please stream it, buy it. You know,
Go to your website.
go to my website, benbrodymusic.com. You will find everything there. You can go. You'll have Ben Brody music. You have my music. You'll have Flow State's music. You'll even see a link for Pitch Black. You may see
Black
some
with a K.
pictures. Black with a K. Everyone knows about Pitch Black and how we spell stuff. We have this. You don't have to put this in, but we have like a sideband in Pitch Black. It's like a joke. We call it Dick Pic, and it's all. Actually, you can put it in there. Like,
Dick Pic with a K?
Dick Pic with all K's, right? They're like, what do you mean all K's? And I'm like, yeah, you know, like what?
T-I-K, P-I-K.
Yeah. I'm like, what do you think? Okay. Yeah. And then it's me, Chris, Chanel, and Ashley. And it's only 30-second songs. And it's like hardcore. It's just like blast beats. And like, ah! And then like Chris.
It's like the Snapchat of music.
Yeah, Snapchat of music is Dick Pic. That's our bio. The Snapchat of music. Dick Pic.
Well, on that note.
On that note,
Ben,
visit dickpic.com. I'm kidding.
Definitely not cutting that out.
Yeah. No. Don't visit dickpic.com because it doesn't exist. I mean, I'm sure it exists, but the way we spell it doesn't exist. Anyway.
Ben, thank you for sitting with me and talking.
I don't know why I was so serious the whole time. I don't know. No, but okay, benbrodymusic.com. Put this first in the end. Ben Brody have a whole tangent about dick pics. But anyway, benbrodymusic.com. You'll find Flow State, Pitch Black Brass Band, some film work, all the stuff that we talked about today. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Dan, for doing this.
Thank you.
And Trevor, thank you for recording.
You're welcome.
And whoever listens to this, I love you. Promote yourself.